Hey YouTube, this is Cayem Interviews. I'm your host Tim Cayem, and we are here to discuss how the story so far is dominating pop punk. Now, most of my videos, I kind of go through like a comparison or kind of a brief history, and with this video, kind of similar to Bring Me the Horizon, I couldn't necessarily compare the story so far to many pop punk bands. You know, you have Neck Deep, Knuckle Puck, and various other huge pop punk bands, but right now, the story so far is kind of at the top. And I kind of want to discover why that is. I mean, there are so many other pop punk bands out there. Why is the story so far kind of generating this buzz that other pop punk bands can't kind of live up to? So I thought, maybe I could compare the story so far's old discography to their new discography, but I really don't think they're competing against each other. I really don't think that fan bases are split, down the middle with them, like, a band like Bring Me the Horizon, for example. But I do think that the story so far has gone through a really cool change, and that's kind of made them as big as they are today. So from the story so far's evolution to their current form, they've always been kind of a step ahead of every other band. Kind of like how you see with Bring Me the Horizon and metalcore, I'd say that Story So Far is kind of that equivalent for pop punk. I mean, someone argued that the Story So Far is kind of branching into an area or genre that isn't even really considered pop punk anymore, but I would kind of still say they are. For their newest record, Proper Dose, I wouldn't necessarily call it pure pop punk, but I would definitely say that there's some pop punk influence in there, and you can't deny that they are a pop punk band when you see them live. They just seem to write catchier choruses, better lyrics, and just have this more nostalgic input as a band than any other pop punk outfit has kind of lit a candle to. From a band that has kind of like some hardcore roots to them, I think it's really interesting where we've seen them grow to and where they're at right now. The difference between Under Soil and Dirt to Proper Dose is a huge gap. I mean, if you look at from the beginning to where they are now, I mean, it's drastically different. But I love that they're still in pursuit of the same things and still writing about roughly the same things, and we're kind of going on this journey with them, but it's just done more tastefully now. This band proves that they are going to dominate this pop punk scene no matter how much time they take in between their records. It's been almost 10 years since the story so far put out Under Soil and Dirt, and they've changed in a lot of different ways, so I kind of want to talk about those a little bit. But to do that, we kind of have to go through the entire timeline of their albums. So Under Soil and Dirt had a bunch of energy, had a bunch of angst, etc. A lot of mean-hearted lyrics that kind of got Parker Cannon through some difficult breakups, I'm assuming. The band is on record as saying that they went into this studio high for Under Soil and Dirt, and they said that every track they record, they were under the influence for, or at least Parker has said that, so I can't vouch for the other members in this band, but I know that he said that lyrically he wanted to step into that space, having an unobjective view of himself, and that was why he wanted to be high for the whole record. So it's interesting to see the evolution of Parker Cannon in the story so far because, I mean, it's just a different way of handling things with Proper Dose than it was with Under Soil and Dirt. I mean, you have this kind of like tackle at substance abuse and kind of being open about that. And then Proper Dose is just still tackling the substance abuse, but just doing it in a more tasteful way with, the title track Proper Dose and the name of the album. Parker Cannon, is stated of having substance abuse problems, and this is thus led to a great body of work with Proper Dose and an interesting, beautiful, artistic representation of how to handle that kind of content. Fast forward to 2 years later, we have What You Don't See as kind of the breakthrough sophomore record for the story so far. We have Stephen Klein of Newfound Glory kind of helping out Sam Pura as the evergreen producer for the story so far and all of their entire discography. This record, we kind of see a little more tasteful approach at the aggression and melody of the story so far. I feel like this album was Under Soil and Dirt on steroids. It was like heavier, but done better. It was more melodic, but it was done better. And you kind of saw a better fit of the entire record and kind of how it all fit in. I mean, this kind of skyrocketed the band. They started touring with the Wonder Years. They got to support A Day to Remember. They got to support Newfound Glory. They did numbers with this record, and it kind of made them a staple for the pop punk genre, at least in the alternative Warped Tour scene. And then we have the story so far self-titled, and I'm not sure how that fits in within your memory, but to me, I found most of my friends didn't really love the record. This was kind of a new chapter for the story so far and kind of maybe what I would consider being like their growing pains record to get to Proper Dose, but I don't know. I feel like now the story so far is known for being a band that, oh yeah, their record will grow on you. I feel like other bands that hit this were kind of maybe like counterparts with Tragedy Will Find Us, where it was a new chapter in the band and it was different, but people have grown to appreciate it, and it's like a pretty well-respected body of work at this point. So the story so far, self-titled, I mean, I wouldn't say it's their best record. I wouldn't even say it's their second best record, but I do say that it's a good body of work and it has some great singles on it. And this kind of, again, I would say is kind of like the Growing Pains sort of album that got them to where they're at now, which is a great spot. So they're self-titled. They went into the studio for the first time all together in one room recording, which was an interesting take for them. I don't know if that was their benefit or their downfall, but I do think that this is probably one of their weaker albums out of the four, but still a great record. They worked with Chris Conley from Save the Day as they demoed this record, and were quoted as saying that most of their tracks didn't even change a bit as they went to Sampira for the final takes. I thought it was interesting that this was supposed to be set out to be like the story so far as an album, you know, like it was their self-titled and was supposed to encompass everything the story so far was. But I felt like this album was so drastically different from the previous two. And I'm not sure if that was intentional or ironic, but I thought it was very interesting that like it was just so different. I also think that maybe it got some ears buzzing, though, in the sense that the story so far wanted to change. They were evolving, you know, and fans were a little apprehensive about that decision. But overall, they're in a great place now with Proper Dose. As much as they thought the story so far, self-titled record, would be their best work yet, you know, as they were quoted as saying that, I really think that Proper Dose has put them in a different place where they're probably much happier with where they're at. So for their fourth full length, I mean, let's not forget about their, you know, acoustic albums in between all of this that were amazing and did wonders for the band. Proper Dose really shows to be the most, I guess, like eclectic work that they have. And it's so interesting because, you know, Parker and the rest of the band, you know, they took some time off from touring and said they were super jaded, burnt out on touring from like 2012 to 2016. They needed a break. They wanted a break, and they didn't know if this album was even going to happen. This is really, though, where you see the story so far standing out as a completely different band on the other side. The heartbreak is explored. The angst is explored. It's all explored. The same kind of heartbeat of the story so far is still there. It's just done more tastefully. So again, with substance abuse, Proper Dose, with heartbreak, Upside Down, like things like that, I thought were really interesting that they were just done in a lot more tasteful way, in my opinion. Tracks like Take Me As You Please and Growing On You kind of fit more in that like acoustic driven EP that they've been releasing, but it's on this album and more transformative into a full band song. And I really, really love it. I really think that everything that the story so far had worked on in their previous three full lengths showed on this album in some respect. And I think that's been their benefit as they've grown as a band each time. Each record, I have seen the story so far grow more and more. I mean, even when I didn't necessarily love the self-titled right away, I still saw their fan base grow, and I thought that was really interesting. I don't really see a band in the pop punk scene evolving this rapidly, and especially only within 4 albums. I think that's pretty impressive. You know, other bands like Neck Deep and Knuckle Puck have definitely changed shape in some respect, but I really think that the story so far has done it more drastically and has done it better. Their live presence has changed a ton, and I mean, I almost feel like we're looking at a different band at this point, but it's been, again, so refreshing to see, and I think that's what every fan really, really wants, right? I think we all just want to know that a band's going to progress with us, right? You know, so as I listened to Under Soil and Dirt in 2011 or whatever, I was in a different place as I am now in 2020. And although I think Parker Cannon and the rest of the story so far have obviously changed in terms of their lyrical content and how they sound as a band, I think that those roots are still there. You kind of have this evolution as a band, but you've gotten to hold on to them. So it's kind of like this, almost like this like Pokemon evolution where you kind of like every stage of this like character or band or whatever. I don't know, that might be kind of lame to say, but I just think that they've evolved well, and you know, they haven't discarded or neglected any bit of their fan base back from Under Soil and Dirt with their heavier, you know, more energetic roots. I think it's really, really cool that the story so far has stuck with Pure Noise this entire time and have not left their roots. And again, I think that shows kind of an example of how they are as a band in terms of not neglecting their old fan base and where their roots really lie. I think it was really cool to have Proper Dose be the first track on this record, as it is the title track, but I mean, just the energy and like great melody of this band and this new sound just kind of kicks you in the face, and you can't help but feel happy and energetic, and also just know that this is going to be such an emotional record. So yeah, I don't know. I just feel like no other band kind of holds a candle to story so far with this evolution and how they've kind of taken shape and changed shape and all of that. So, I mean, let me know in the comments below. What do you guys think? Do you think the story so far is the best pop punk band. Do you think the future of the story so far is going to be something different? I'm a little bit nervous on what their future could be and where they're headed next. That's the only thing that I'm a little bit nervous on, because I feel like what they've found is a great space here with Proper Dose and a great sound, and I just don't want them to fuck it up. It'll be interesting to see if any other band can kind of like make that transition into an artistic approach. But yeah, I mean, I don't really know if I'd call the story so far pop punk anymore, but I really feel like they still dominate the pop punk scene, and that they take pop punk bands and, alternative bands of the like on tour, and they're the biggest tours of the year. So I don't know. Let me know. Do you think the story so far is going to move on to a different genre? Do you think they're going to start touring with other bands, like more alternative bands that are bigger, Blink 182, things like that? I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure, but I know this band has integrity, and I know this band has really proven their roots throughout, this entire like almost 10 years that they've been releasing music. Let me know your comments below, and of course, thank you for watching. This is Cayem Interviews. Peace out.